I would say 90% of my friends believe Charlie was killed in a conspiracy. 60 to 70% of them believe he was not killed in the way alleged. 80% of my friends believed he turned on Israel. That's the mainstream. Those are the normies.
I have a feeling that all of you are going to want to see this, because what Baron Coleman has just dropped in the Charlie Kirk assassination case is absolutely massive. And I'm not joking when I say this. It has the potential to blow the entire prosecution's case wide open. Now, for those of you who don't know Baron Coleman, here's what you need to understand. Baron Coleman is a conservative attorney and investigator who has been one of the most aggressive independent voices examining the circumstances around Charlie Kirk's assassination. He is not a mainstream media commentator. He does not have a network backing him. He is operating independently, and that independence is exactly why what he has uncovered is so dangerous to the people who need this case to go away quietly. Tyler Robinson is currently charged with the murder of Charlie Kirk. The mainstream media has treated this as an open and shut case. The prosecution is confident. Erica Kirk and her allies have pushed for maximum media access to the trial. And yet, something very peculiar has been happening behind the scenes. The evidence is not lining up, and Baron Coleman saw it first. Check this out.
Baron, what exactly did they find in the, and we haven't seen the ME's report, the medical examiners, we haven't seen autopsy pictures, none of that stuff. But what exactly did they find when that pathologist took out from Charlie? What is it that he pulled from his neck, cervical area, C2 to C7 and then T1? What is it they're going to show here? This is what we found. What is it?
Well, you're making an assumption that we've not yet heard. You're assuming facts, not in evidence, counselor.
Won't be the first time.
You're assuming something was pulled from his body, and that has not been established. What we have learned is that there were four lead fragments, and a bullet jacket fragment recovered at the autopsy scene, but we don't know where they were, and we don't know whether it makes sense that they were shot into him. I'm trying to avoid using any words that'll get you anything, but we haven't been told that. We haven't seen that. We haven't seen the autopsy report. We haven't heard from the doctor. We haven't heard from the medical examiner. So all we know is that we have fragments recovered from, we believe, Charlie Kirk. Certainly the way the motion reads that it's Charlie Kirk, but we don't know whether it makes sense that they were deposited there from a rifle ejection. I'm trying my best here to
combustion of a projectile. And
in other words, what if someone just stuffed them down in the bottom of the neck right here, and you look and an autopsy expert reviews it and says, well, that's not where that would be if this was what happened. That's ludicrous. I'm also curious, because you brought this up, does it make sense where they are? I'm curious if the defense will put on an expert that says this type of round would not have remained in his body.
Oh.
Did you hear that? Because if you missed it, I want you to play that back. Take a look at this.
If you were to look at this, like you said, the idea of a 30-06 hitting this titanium bone by virtue of this great diet and clean living and not remove certain appendages, that's unheard of, especially when I saw the one picture from Candace, that one video, behind him, there's nothing.
The reality is the ballistics in the Tyler Robinson case do not match the narrative the prosecution has been selling to the public. The bullet fragments that were recovered, and this is a documented fact that has been raised in court filings, cannot be conclusively matched to Tyler Robinson's rifle. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is an evidentiary problem that the prosecution has not resolved. And Baron Coleman has been saying this publicly for months. You want to know why that matters? Because in a capital murder case, a case where a man's life and freedom are on the line, cannot be conclusively matched is not a minor footnote. It is the entire foundation of reasonable doubt. And the prosecution knows it, which is why the pressure to silence the people asking these questions has been so intense. I'm not joking when I say this. The discovery process in the Tyler Robinson case has been plagued with delays. Documents that should have been disclosed were held back. Forensic evidence was not produced on schedule. And every single time Baron Coleman or any independent investigator pointed to those gaps, the response was not transparency. It was attack. Discredit the messenger. Destroy the investigation. Make the questions go away.
We found a legal document. And that legal document said that Tyler Robinson was arrested by Brian Davis of the Utah State Bureau of Investigation at 10 p.m. You have two options. You either accept that as reality or you think it's a lie. The question we have is, why would that lie persist on a legal document? I don't know. Particularly one of the very earliest legal documents that would have been created. And it would have been created, by the way, initially in Washington County. So why would you bother creating that document if it's not accurate? Because after we found that, we made an obvious legal conclusion or an obvious logical conclusion. Well, if Tyler Robinson was in custody and being interrogated at 10 p.m., whoever got him at 10 p.m., Brian Davis, would have had to leave the Salt Lake City area or perhaps the Orem or Provo area, but one of those two areas, to go get him. And that's a 3.5+ hour drive.
Did you hear that? That is not how innocent parties behave. That is how people behave when the evidence doesn't tell the story they need it to tell.
Which means they would have had to know he existed prior to 10 p.m. And they would have had to know where he was, at least what area he was in, to start heading that way. We searched ADSB, we searched flight radar. We could find no helicopter or plane, at least with an ADSB transponder on, that would have given Brian Davis a ride, not to arrive before 10 p.m. And so we concluded he drove, and I think it's a fair conclusion. And again, if he drove, it's a 3.5 hour drive. So we had that one document, arrest by Brian Davis at 10 p.m. And then we discovered another document. The other document suggested he was being interrogated and Mirandized at 6:25 p.m. on the evening of his arrest. And we know he was arrested at 10 p.m. on September 11th.
It has now come to light that Blake Bednarz, a man who had embedded himself into the independent investigative community around the Charlie Kirk case, was secretly recording Baron Coleman and Candace Owens, behind the scenes, without consent, while presenting himself as an ally. Let me be very clear about what that means. Someone deliberately infiltrated the inner circle of the two most prominent independent investigators examining the Charlie Kirk assassination and secretly recorded their private conversations. And the question that nobody in the mainstream media is asking, the question that absolutely needs to be asked, is who sent Blake Bednarz in? Who benefits from having recordings of what Baron Coleman and Candace Owens were saying privately about this case? The reality is, this is not random. This is not a rogue individual acting alone out of curiosity. This is a coordinated operation to surveil independent investigators before a major trial. And if you think that kind of operation gets launched without direction from people with significant resources and significant stakes in the outcome of the Tyler Robinson case, then I have a bridge to sell you. Rules for thee, but not for me. The people demanding transparency in this trial, demanding cameras in the courtroom, demanding public scrutiny of Tyler Robinson, are the same people who dispatched a covert recorder into private conversations between Baron Coleman and Candace Owens. That is the level of hypocrisy we are dealing with, and the American people deserve to know it. Here is what this means, not just for the Tyler Robinson case, but for independent media and the future of America First justice. If you can secretly record the people investigating a political assassination and face zero consequences, if you can suppress ballistic evidence in a high-profile murder trial and the mainstream press doesn't ask a single hard question, then the justice system is not working for the American people. It is working for the people with the power and the money to manipulate it. Baron Coleman has been sounding the alarm on this for months, And the fact that someone went to the extraordinary length of planting a covert recorder in his circle tells you exactly how close he is to something the other side does not want exposed. The reality is, the Tyler Robinson trial is one of the most consequential legal proceedings in modern conservative history. Charlie Kirk was a massive figure. His assassination sent shockwaves through the entire MAGA movement. And the question of whether the right person is actually being prosecuted, whether the evidence actually supports the charges, is not a fringe question. It is the most important question in this case. And right now, Baron Coleman is the only person with the credibility, the legal background, and the independence to ask it without being bought off or shut down. Drop your opinion down in the comments below. Do you think the ballistics inconsistency in the Tyler Robinson case is a legitimate evidentiary problem, or is it being blown out of proportion? And do you think the Blake Bednar's secret recording operation was coordinated, or do you think it was one person acting alone? Give me your honest take, because this story is not over. The trial hasn't even started yet, and when it does, Political Lens is going to be breaking down every single development as it happens.